You're listening to another episode of Mother's War on Violence. I'm your host, Yolanda Wallace, and I'd like to start off with prayer today. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for all our listening audience. I pray for strength. I pray for endurance on the workplace. And I ask that you would bless our listening audience and our production and our guest. Amen. Today, in our studio, we are inviting a very special guest today on the topic of workplace violence. I want you to allow a few minutes for you to meet my new co-host with me on the show today, Miss Folanda James. And thank you, listening audience, for joining another podcast, again, on workplace violence. And we have Yolanda James with NAMI. Welcome.
Thank you. So nice to meet here.
Great. So, can you tell me a little bit about NAMI?
So NAMI was created in Wisconsin, and it's a grassroots organization. It was originally designed or created by two women that were just sitting at the kitchen table.
Like you and I.
Just like you and I.
Wow.
And they both experienced the opportunity of having sons that were both living with schizophrenia.
Okay.
And so this was back in the 1970s. And so they had decided that they just needed some more resources, because back in the 1970s, the moms were accused of being the reason why their young ones were diagnosed with certain mental illnesses. And so they sat and they met, and the group grew from 2 to 5 to 10. And before you knew it, after a couple years, they became an actual organization.
So what city was this at?
This was in Wisconsin. I cannot remember offhand which city it was in, but it was in Wisconsin.
Okay, cool. And NAMI is now a nationally recognized organization, right?
It is.
And what does NAMI stand for?
The National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Okay, awesome. So now, what do you think about our topic today, workplace violence? Have you had much experience with that, with people calling in, or what resources do you provide?
Well, with in regards to NAMI, we don't get a lot of workplace violence individuals calling in. It's more, I'm dealing with my family member that has a mental illness, and I'm just overwhelmed. Are there any resources out there that could help me during this time, or help them during this time? Most of the workplace violence experience that I've had is just being on the job and just experiencing it with others, and just being a support and a listening ear for others.
Okay. So you being a listening ear for others who have experienced it.
Yes.
Have you experienced it yourself before?
Yes.
Okay. And
yes.
what does that look like? Can you share that with our listening audience?
So it can range, or it had ranged for me personally through aggressive text messages via to our personal to our work phones, our personal phones, emails that are required to be responded to after hours, and then being just overshadowed by coworkers that are pretending to be friendly, but really just being the the person stirring up the pot always, just stirring up all of the confusion and just the backbiting and the talking about each other and just keeping the workplace gossip going. So
can it also be that you kind of have that every time you would have a meeting it is more demeaning and
definitely
more down talking?
Definitely. Yeah. When you have your superiors or your direct reports or supervisors, bosses, whatever, the title is, when you have them not creating a culture of growth, but actually, just kind of trying to pigeonhole you into a box and
Right.
just making you, belittling you with their comments or just not supporting a atmosphere that supports growth and working together and working collaboratively, but more so just pitting everybody against each other. It's nice sometimes, a lot of times they like to say, oh, well, camaraderie is good, but sometimes you need a little competition. I think competition is good for sports. But when it comes to the workplace, we need to come together and work together because it takes everyone.
As a team. That's team player.
Yes.
That takes team building.
Yes.
That takes a lot of patience.
Yes.
Because each one of the team members are different,
Yes.
right? So everybody doesn't think the same. Everybody has different experiences and challenges.
Yes.
And I believe that on the workplace, that should be one of those places that a person should not have to experience much violence.
Yes.
Or actually much of anything, because we all are in the workplace to do a job. Now, I know that there are some people who come to work already with mental health issues, who already have anxiety, especially after post-COVID.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that?
Oh, yes. COVID did a number for our affiliate in itself, just causing numbers to drop, participation and everything. So right now we're at the rebuilding stage of the organization. It's been here in Peoria, located for about 45 years.
Okay.
And so we're just in the rebuilding, just trying to reconnect and let everybody know, like, NAMI Tri-County, Illinois is alive and well, and we're here ready to serve the community in any capacity that we can. No, none of us are licensed professionals in mental health, but we all have lived experiences, and we're well connected, and we'll try to connect you with whatever the resource is that you need. A lot of times in the workplace, because so many of us are doers and we have deadlines and we have all of those things that we need to meet on a daily basis, we forget that our mental health is so important. So very, very important. And we really need to take time to just check in with ourselves and see where we are and see, how is the balancing of work life and professional life, how is that working for us? Are we being successful in it? Because if not, then that's when we have the mental illnesses that pop up. And if we're not prepared with a plan or a strategy, then that can cause some serious issues or concerns.
Okay, so that goes for the employees and the employers as well.
Yes.
I do. I can relate to the employee of a person, who is suffering with some mental health issues, would cause some rigidness with the employees, and it does cause a very interesting environment that can make a person leave work feeling awful about doing something great. And they may love their job, but sometimes the pressures and the uncomfortable conversations that may be coming from some employers,
that is correct.
can be hard. It can be really hard.
I like to think about, how we have that saying, real recognizes real. I like to say healed recognizes healed.
Healed.
And
Okay.
that's just saying that I can recognize if something's not well with you because I'm doing the work for myself to work on my personal healing, and I'm on my personal journey. So as I'm on that personal journey, because I've connected with the mental health professional, and if you have your higher power, I call him God for
Your
myself.
faith, that's right.
But if you have your faith, you pair it with a mental health professional, and you have a great combination
Right.
there, so that you can start recognizing those unhealthy versus healthy relationships that you should partake in.
That is so true, so true. And on that level of talking about the workplace violence and how it affects people, and dealing with bosses, and I'm talking about the workplace violence that happens. Not Sometimes it can happen with coworkers because they're competing for the boss's attention and to thrive and strive, and which is fine, but I just don't think you need to push somebody else down to get to the top.
And right now we're talking about the whole the codependency and the just unhealthy people pleasing
Right.
type of personalities, and all of those can be really detrimental and sometimes just create a toxic environment if
Right.
they're not if they're out of control and unchecked.
Do you have any suggestions about what kind of help or what kind of things that people can do besides working with the personal professional? What can they do to help their codependency or their
Well, there are a lot of programs that are free. Like
Okay.
there's one, CODA, totally free. They have online programs, and you can just from the privacy of your own home, from your phone, go on there and join a community, a group of your choice that speaks to you. And you just share, you just talk. Sometimes there's individuals that are there that can give you feedback if you want some. If you don't,
Okay.
and you just want to talk and you just want to get it off your chest, they're available. A lot of times we deal with these things and they get out of control because we feel like we're all alone.
Right.
Nobody wants to hear this. No one wants to hear me complain or talk about this and that. But I would like to encourage everyone, you're not alone. And there's always someone just right under your nose sometimes that have experienced or are currently experiencing those same things that you've experienced or are experiencing.
That is so true. And sometimes the pressure of the the bullying that goes on at work, the uneasy day, it can make you almost dread or regret to walk in the door because of the atmosphere, the tone, and I believe that the employer sets the tone for his employees or her employees.
Definitely.
Of where they want to work and create a nurturing, healthy, mental healthy environment.
Yes.
Because if you're going to a meeting where they're shouting or they're screaming or things like that, I think sometimes somebody needs to put that T up and say, time out. You know what I'm saying? Time out.
Definitely.
Let's go back to our corners and reflect and refresh ourselves. And ding, 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 let's hit the ball. Let's go at this again,
Right.
I understand that sometimes it's stressful for employers as well as employees because they have a big responsibility on their shoulders, and they have deadlines and goals and things that need to be met. But in order to create a healthy environment for an employer, what would you suggest?
I think employers need to remember that in order to have that environment and meet those goals and meet the deadlines and just really, speak to the bottom line, you need to make sure that your employees are okay, mentally, emotionally, as well as financially, because you can only throw so much money at that thing. And then before you know it, the money is just not enough. So you can't just cover it up. You have to create environments or opportunities where those employees have access to mental health professionals or just the counseling services, period, just a safe space to be able to just share those things that they're dealing with that's on their plates openly, and in a manner that's safe, so that they don't feel attacked. They don't feel like, oh, well, I've gone in here and I've shared, but now, they're like, oh, you can't deal with that? You can't handle it?
Right.
Well, I don't know. Maybe, I need to replace you. It's
Right.
not about that. It's just about meeting that person where they are and watching them grow. I hate to use the word bosses, during my MBA program, my professor, Dr. Hurd, she would always tell me, like, it's more important to be a leader than it is to be a boss. And so she said that's what she really wanted us to think about. And that just meant for us that it's important to pour into the next person, allow them to grow, allow everything that you bring to the table to help them to be better, and that be your focus. Not so much bossing them around or dictating or micromanaging what they're doing or anything, but more so just meeting them where they are, encouraging them, not just being attentive to what the work on the job is, but what's going on with the personal life? Do they have any personal goals that they're trying to achieve? And really just tapping in and encouraging them throughout that as well. And so I think that that's just really important. Just creating an environment where your employees believe that you care about them.
Right.
And they're not just a name, not just a number, not just a warm body filling a seat, but that you genuinely care about their well-being.
And like I started off saying before, everybody comes from a different, time and area in their life, and different careers to start something new, to come to this job. I feel like every employer should have the accurate training to help, because I have seen coming on, watched employers have new employees, and they've not given enough training.
Yes. And for some reason, that's a new thing where we
it's
just
a new common thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's a new common thing where employers are just hiring bodies, and the employees are feeling like they're not trained, they're not properly prepared for the job at hand. And so again, as the leader, as the employer, it's important that you provide all the resources. It's important that you kind of sit down and think about, what does that strategic plan look like as I hire on this new person?
Exactly.
We have lots and lots of good nonprofits here within our community, but a lot of times the downfall with those nonprofits, a lot of times is just the structure. The poor structure, the lack of training, the lack of understanding of the various things, be it with grants or just funding or just how to manage people, because it's community service work, and so a lot of times it's just that lack of knowledge. Sometimes, in most cases, passion can only get you so far. Right. You have to be trained.
Yes,
there has to be some kind of training, so that you can just ask those questions and kind of cover some, not all, but some of those what ifs that can come up.
Okay, good. Cool. That is great feedback, Ms. Folanda. And I'm just looking at the extreme level that workforce bullying can create. Recently in the media, there's been a story about a lady named Candia Bailey, and her situation ended up deadly. She felt like this was so much pressure coming from her job that she just couldn't take it anymore, and this was a continuous writing of her that she committed suicide.
Yeah. Yeah, that was very sad. Reading about that, it was really, really sad because sometimes the weight of expectations that you believe that you have or that's been placed on you from others, it can just be super, super heavy. And I believe that more often than not, a lot of us are dealing with that regularly, and we're trying to deal with it alone because we don't want to have anyone judge us or question our capabilities or anything like that. And I think that that's important for those individuals that are feeling overwhelmed with your job or with your work responsibilities.
And by looking at her picture, Miss Folanda, she looked like she was a go-getter. She was full of life. She was so excited.
Yeah.
You would never imagine that whatever was happening at the workplace, that she would have been bullied. And the article speaks about her being bullied by her boss.
Correct. Yeah, the CEO. Yeah. It's one of those things where you can't judge a book by its cover. A lot of us are walking around dealing with postpartum. I mean, not postpartum, but PTSD. Sorry.
Yeah, that too.
And so the PTSD can not only just it's any trauma. Right. So be it workplace trauma, childhood trauma, just any of those things. And the stressors that come behind, work and having she was the VP, within her organization.
The vice president.
And so that's a lot of pressure. You're at a university. And so, that's a lot of pressure. You have people's lives, that are just waiting for you to make that decision, good or bad. And so those individuals just really need to have support and people to check in on them because sometimes it's the strong ones, right? Those ones that look like they're go-getters and they having it all together and they're doing all of the things. Those are the ones that we really need to check on because they're a lot of times masking it.
And I noticed that the media shared that there were people that were angry about it within the community of what had happened. Some people were even aware of the pressure because sometimes workforce bullying can also be the opposite sex. Nobody talks about that anymore, but we know that that does happen. And what are your suggestions for how to, as we wrap up this conversation, what we can do to help our listening audience deal with these situations?
I would just say, if you feel like you're experiencing workplace bullying, look into your policies. If you have union, look into your union. Look into your handbook. See what the guidelines and the rules are. But do advocate for yourself. Advocate for fair treatment. Do not just sit back and take it and deal with it. You have rights. And your employer, they know you have rights. You need to exercise them. Because your voice deserves to be heard and you deserve to come to work and not have those added extra pressures that are bothering or interrupting your mental health, you from having a healthy mental health state. And then if you are experiencing, mental health episodes or crises, please reach out. You have 988, that is right there at your fingertips that 988? Have 988. And they're ready, willing to take your call and talk you through whatever crises that you have. Calling NAMI, Tri-County, Illinois, if you're in this area, is also something that you can do. We will work as hard as we can to connect you with resources and with support services.
Do you have that number?
Yes, okay. Yes, I do. And that number is 309-693-0541.
Okay.
And that's for NAMI Tri-County, Illinois. And again, we have resources that we're always willing to share and a listening ear. But ultimately, if you're feeling like you are in a crisis moment where you're feeling hopeless and you just don't know where to turn, please call 988. Counselors are waiting. They're 24/7, and they're there to help you. So do not sit in your home or anywhere alone and feeling like it's over, because it's not the end.
Okay. And there's also some suicide prevention lines
Yes.
that they have all across the internet.
All
that you
across,
can,
yes, the world,
access. And we know we have the 211 here in Peoria, Illinois, and you can call them through the United Way, and they will direct you to the correct resources that you need. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much, Ms. Folanda James, and the NAMI Tri-County Area Mental Health Organization. Are you a non-for-profit?
We are.
Okay,
are.
awesome. And you take donations?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
we do.
Great, that is awesome. So if you'd like to give to an organization that has a worthy cause, think of NAMI in Illinois and what it does for our area. And you're not just in Peoria. Where else are you located so our listening audience can hear it? I know we are nationwide.
We are nationwide. For the particular affiliate that I'm the president over is Tri-County. So all of the communities that are connected in our Tri-County area.
Okay, so that would be Morton,
Washington,
East Peoria, Washington,
yes, Knox,
Chillicothe, and
yes,
on and on. Okay,
yes,
awesome.
yes.
All right,
and
thank
so
you.
we're always looking for more members to grow and be able to help us to expand our reach and establish more programming in other areas. If you're interested in starting your own NAMI affiliate within your community to be able to provide community resources or support groups, please reach out.
Awesome. And Mothers War on Violence looks to do a project with NAMI coming up sometime this year. And we thank you again for listening to Mothers War on Violence with our sponsor, 89.9 FM WCBU.